every time there's a pause, I'm going to say, man, if only Sergio was here, we could work through this. All right, for today. Someday you will be old enough to start reading fairy tales again. C.S. Lewis. Yeah. So there's something there that's smart. There's something really important there about when we read fairy tales. It's always like things end well. Things end well for the good. Things end bad for the bad. And this is almost a definition of fiction. What's an expectation you think that fairy tale set for kids?
I think one could be like in a relationship. Love life.
What's the expectation that they set?
Happily ever after.
Happily ever after.
Oh my God.
Yeah, why not? They should show them arguing later on about the laundry. Yeah.
I have put something similar to that, but I put that like once we get older, like a certain age, we learn things as we grow older. That's just natural way of life. But there's a certain age where all you'll have is the time you have left, and the memories of the time you spent so far. And when you look back at those memories, you'll see a lot of things, not necessarily bad or good, and you'll start to understand what they really meant, what was behind them. Something your mom might have done for you as a little, or your dad was. Like it's like you'll start to catch on things.
You ever heard the term a subtext? Subtext means it's kind of what it sounds like. You have a text, like let's say the word here is fake, and then there's a subtext, true. In other words, there's what's on the surface, and then there's what's really being said underneath. Oh my God, yeah. I'm gonna go hang out with the guys tonight. Fine. Oh good. Oh good. She says it's fine. What's the subtext?
You're sleeping on the couch.
Yeah, you die. Yeah, you're dead when you get
You
home.
should be on the couch.
Yeah, but you said fine. That's not what I meant. There's a subtext. And so in fairy tales, there's a subtext. There's what you're seeing on the screen in front of you, but then there's what's really going on underneath. And of course that requires us to look at things symbolically. Going back to Jung. Chris.
I was gonna say is like what he was saying is about like the older we get, the more knowledge we know. It's like once like you start, it's like since you acquire like many knowledge throughout your life because of multiple events that happen during your lifetime. Once you like pick up on a fairy tale once again, you're able to like break it down more, like get like more meaning behind the like happiness. Like as a little kid, you was like, oh my God, Cinderella is with got her a glass shoe bag, and now she's marrying the prince. And like, but as like once you read it when you're older, you start to find like what actually happened, like the process and everything, how like she was treated and everything. Like you just start breaking it down, and like every single thing throughout it, you break it down. There's not just like the ending that you see. But I also think of it as that like, or maybe once you're older, you start reading them if you have children, you start reading them to your children as well. So that's the other one that I was thinking about, is like someday you'll be old enough, someday you'll have kids, if you choose to, and you'll read them fairy tales. And then later they find out different, so.
So I guess there's a way of looking at it that even if fairy tales aren't, even if they're fake, they can still be true. Even if they're fake, they can still be true. Yeah, a story can be false, but still be true. I'll clear what I mean by that. But yeah, it makes me think that there's a very cynical way of looking at fairy tales also as we get older. We make this mistake when we, so for example, we make this mistake when we apply like a 2023 understanding to things from the past. So for example, I was talking to somebody recently who was talking about Athenian democracy from ancient Greece. What the Greeks meant by democracy is not the same thing that we mean by democracy. When we're going over the stuff with Plato, I gloss past it because it's not super important for us to understand for the purposes of looking at the allegory of the cave. But if you brought an ancient Athenian into the United States and said, hey, here's what democracy is in 2023, they wouldn't recognize it. They'd look at it and go, that's not the system that we invented. It's different. It's very different. Now, we have this way of looking back on the Athenians and going, oh, wow, they were so progressive, they were so forward-looking that they developed this thing called democracy. And it's true they did. But if you knew what they really meant by it, you might not feel the same way about it. But then you make the mistake of going in the other direction because they didn't think the same way that we think. It's like we want to chastise them for thinking differently. Well, they're 2,500 years ago, completely different cultures, completely different state of the world. Of course, they're going to think differently. But this happens to us also on a micro level, that we start to interpret fairy tales from this really cynical point of view. Like I was talking to somebody, I think last year I think it was, and they were complaining about Snow White because they're saying that the prince sexually assaults her while she's sleeping because he kisses her. Like, really? That counts as a sexual assault in 2022? And they were talking about how this teaches girls horrible lessons about permissiveness. And I was just like, my God, how incredibly cynical do you have to be? And how terribly unhappy that has to make you. And it's true, she's a very unhappy person. She's a friend of mine, but she's a very unhappy person. Because she tries to view that from this perspective of not of innocence, but from this perspective of being angry about a bunch of other stuff in her life. So we can make that mistake too, going in the other direction. Yeah.
I kind of took it as how being grown is like heavily admired. And so like a fairy tale is very childish. And carrying that into adulthood is kind of looked down upon because you're not seen as like very mature. But when you grow older, you experience more things for yourself, you see and hear different things. So you'll go back to the fairy tales and you'll like openly read them because you put away like that fear of being childish and the desire of being very grown.
So what do the very grown and the children have in common? We could say maybe elderly people. What do they have in common with children? Kind of. Don't any of you guys babysit little kids?
Yes.
If your hair is messed up, what's that little kid going to tell you?
Oh, they're very honest.
Yeah, they're going to tell you the truth. They're going to tell you the truth. Little kids are not going to lie to you. And little kids are not going to lie about themselves either. Because if a little kid's walking down the street and they trip and they fall, if they're a crybaby, they'll start to cry. But otherwise, if they fall down, what are they going to do?
Get up.
Yeah, and start laughing about it. Because it's funny. Because it's silly. They're going to trip over something and fall down. And then as we get older, we're going to trip and fall. And our immediate reaction is, who saw? Oh my God, this is so embarrassing. And why? Because little kids just don't have the mind to give a shit what people think about them. They haven't matured to that point yet. And then what do old people have in common? I'm talking about elderly people. Don't any of you guys have like those grandparents who just don't give a fuck and they just say what they think?
Yeah, bro.
And say, and they ask me, I'm 90 years old. What are you gonna do to me? They just don't care what people think about them because most of their peers are dead, and they're wise enough to understand that another generation judging them is nonsensical. We don't, and it's a terrible tragedy, but that we can't look at old people who behave that way and see wisdom in it. In other words, we look at old people and we're like, they're just old. We can't recognize the fact that they can live a life where they don't really care about social judgment and still be very content and happy. In other words, they've learned something that the rest of us are trying to, well, not trying to learn, hopefully we will learn someday, which is that the audience is bullshit. We've heard this before, yes? I've talked to you about this. Yeah, the audience is bullshit. Yeah. Little kids recognize that. Old people recognize that. It's the rest of us in the middle who, when we slip and we fall, we're looking around like, oh my God, did someone just see me fall down? Oh, what are people going to think about me? And so something happens to us when we get older that old, that we stop caring about what people think about us. Now, is it any surprise that they say, man, little kids are like sponges. They learn so much so fast. Yeah, there's something neurological there, that's true, but there's also a lack of ego that's in place. That's why they can learn so much. One of the barriers that stops us from learning as we get older is that, yeah, subjects get more difficult, but we also have this ego thing that kicks in. Like, we go to learn math, we struggle with it, but I don't care about math anyway. That's convenient. It's convenient because then when you don't learn it, which, by the way, you could learn it, it just takes more work. But when we work hard and we struggle with it, it makes us feel bad for struggling with it. That's a big impediment to learning. Because especially, I don't care who you are, man, when you get to higher level stuff, even if you're really smart, you're going to struggle with the higher level stuff too. Everybody does. And if it was easy, it'd be second grade. But it's difficult. So even if you're super intelligent, you'll struggle with the difficult stuff. But as long as you don't see it as being some kind of a judgment on you as a person, you'll get it because you'll keep working at it. I see it happen in this class all the time. Students who start doing badly, and I get it. I can see the wheels go turn. I can see them get angry. Why are we talking about psychology? This is an English class. You want to conjugate verbs? Is that what you want to do? They have no idea what conjugate even means, but they'll just say yes, of course. And then I say, okay, fine, here's some poetry. Oh, I hate this shit. Because you understand what it is. It's not about the subject matter, it's that they struggle with that thing. And rather than just be like, I struggle with it, but I need to pass. Let me get through it. We'll work on it. Then you can put down the ego, you can go through it, and you'll get there. You will get there. But it's that impediment to learning. Little kids don't have that impediment. Old people have the wrong impediment, by the way. Old people get the idea in their heads like, I've seen it all. And if you feel like you've seen it all, then you feel like you have nothing to learn. And this is why I try talking to an old person about some change, about some point of view, trying to change their point of view about something. A lot of times it's difficult because they get in that mindset. I read something that was horribly tragic, and I really mean it. Like it broke my heart. I'm trying to remember. I want to find it because I'd like to share it with you. Actually, I read it last year. It's indicated that at a certain age, I want to say it's 37 years old, or 35 years old. But anyway, the average person after the age of 35 or whatever it was does not discover new music, doesn't listen to new music. In other words, once you get to a certain age, anything that comes out after that, the average person never hears, never listens to it. Why? Because new music sucks. It wasn't the music that I grew up with. And it's like, does Cardi B suck? No, it's entertaining as shit. Of course it is. If you're listening to it, give it a chance. Try it. Otherwise, what you're doing is you're saying the only good music is the stuff that fits in this one window. But man, is there anything better in life than music? Without music, life would be a mistake. Now, if you limited yourself to just this one genre, just this one era, you're missing out on everything that comes after it, everything that came before. Good tunes are good tunes. But when you get to a point where you just kind of say, the only thing that's good is the stuff I'm familiar with, now you're that old person. You just got to wait to get in the box now. Because you're not growing anymore. You're just waiting to die. Maybe when you die, you'll give birth to a tree that will grow, but you certainly won't. I'm sorry?
Oh, because you come back as a tree. I'm like, reincarnation.
When I come back as a tree? It's not quite reincarnation.
I know.
So let's not say it then unless it really is that. Yeah, otherwise it's an interruption.
I didn't like R&B, but I listened to it just.
What's that?
Oh, because I didn't like R&B. I thought it was like some gay shit, dumb shit, but I listened to it. I love it.
So, Solomon's in the gay shit.
You're in the gay shit?
Okay, man. Whatever, man. That's the thing is, like, it's either good or it's not.
Yeah.
We get caught up on that stuff. I'm like, it's gay. So what? It's like, it's too masculine. So what? It's too feminine. So what? It's too blah, blah, blah. Whatever, man.
Just joke.
Criticism is the highest form of autobiography. And so when we say stuff like that, it indicates something about us. But, at some point you'll be able to look back, hopefully, on music and not get so damn old that you aren't able to appreciate it. And hopefully at some point you'll be able to read fairy tales, not from this cynical state of mind that we have right now. Like I mentioned fairy tales in my classes, it just explodes. People mention Cinderella. They go, oh, but the one that Disney showed us, that's not the real story. And everyone's like, oh, I know the real story is so much worse. It's like we revel in the fact that there's a dark version of it. I know, we're so edgy and cool. We like to revel in the dark version of the thing. That's why I mentioned it earlier. I said, Disney didn't say that. That's why I said that.
Yeah.
Because, there's a darker version of things. And the darker version of things, by the way, does teach you something. But so do the softer versions of things. And so, at some point, hopefully we can go back and look at fairy tales and realize what they really are about, what they're really teaching us. There's a text, there's a subtext as well. We'll learn some of the subtext when we look at the fairy tales this year. No Sergio to make it all make sense for us. He is missed. Now I think we just need to FaceTime him, set the phone up right there, make him respond, man. Just because he's sick doesn't mean the rest of us have to suffer, right?
Yeah.
Any questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques?